Good evening, Whitfield families. My name is Mr. Curry, and I'm honored to serve as your child's principal. I am buzzing with excitement to welcome all of you to our Meet the Teacher night and to get this year off started to what I know is going to be an unbelievable school year. This year, our school theme is Be the Change That You Wish to See in the World. And just like bees working together in a hive, we believe this theme speaks to the power each of us have to make a positive impact in our community, both at school and at home. As we strive to inspire our students to be the change, we also recognize that this important work cannot be done alone. We need to work together as a team, families, teachers, and staff, to create a hive of support that ensures every child thrives. Tonight, we will be holding two sessions for our families with multiple children to provide the opportunity to meet their child's teacher. The first session will begin at 6 o'clock p.m. and the second session will begin at 6:30 p.m. I'm sure you'll find both sessions to be sweet as honey. Thank you for being here tonight and for your continued partnership. Together, let's make this beautiful year for our students and help them be the change makers our world needs. See you around.
Mr. Croft is our Dean of Students. Mr. Paul is our school custodian. Our office staff is Ms. Widener, Mrs. Hummel, and Mrs. Folk. In the nurses suite, we've got Nurse Allison and Nurse Robin.
Hi everyone, we're the kindergarten team.
I'm Mrs. Fuller.
I'm Miss Hassler.
I'm Miss Whitmore.
And I'm Mrs. Hamburger.
In first grade, we have Mrs. Tonsel, Mrs. Osterberry, Miss Neff, Mrs. Huff, and Mrs. Ice Collins.
Hi, I'm Miss Bellis. I'm Mrs. Winters.
I'm Mrs. Southwick.
I'm Miss Hodnick.
I'm Miss Schwechter.
And we are so excited to be in second grade.
In third grade, we have Mrs. Konopelski, Mrs. Beaver, Mr. Dietrich, Mrs. Hewitt, and Mrs. Matten. Our fourth grade team consists of Miss Black, Mrs. Brindle, Mrs. Perriandy, Mrs. Hanwork, and Mr. Schlegel. And in fifth grade, we have Mrs. Curran, Mr. Hewitt, Mrs. McCrae, and Mr. Schulk. Here are some other busy bees and staff buzzing around the halls of Whitfield. Dr. Luff is our occupational therapist. In the multiple disabilities room, we have Mrs. Potasowitz, Mrs. Bell, intermediate, autistic support, Mrs. Haymaker, primary autistic support, and Mrs. Recapido, life skills. We have Mrs. Good in our vision support, and in learning support, we've got Mrs. Cup, Mrs. Sachko, and Mr. Keeling. In speech, we have Ms. Kramer and Ms. DeNocentes. In our ESO, we have Ms. Herner. Our gift of support this year is Mrs. Fick and Ms. Wenzel.
I'm Shelley Francis. Welcome to the wonderful world of orchestra. I'm looking so forward to working with you.
Ms. Mancini is our band teacher. And our school counselors are Mrs. Barbin for grades 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and Miss Bowman for grades K, 1, and 2.
Hi, I'm Miss Bowman. I'm the K-2 school counselor, and this is my new room.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Lynch, and I teach music, and I am in the brand new music classroom.
I'm Mrs. Schultz, and I look forward to sharing lots of great books in the library with your students this year.
Hi everyone. I'm Mrs. Worrell, physical education teacher.
In art, we have Mrs. Flanagan. I'm a bumblebee in discovery. It's fantastic to build with plastic. We will build with tape. Maybe make a cardboard grave. games and coding. 4 C's we are using. Come on, let's go to Discovery. Ms. Reganis and Mrs. Kramer are our reading specialists. Mrs. Adams, our instructional support teacher. Mrs. Ziemba and Mrs. Sassy, our intervention teachers. And our school resource officer is Officer Johnson.